Welcome to the artist's mind, an immersive experience into the feminine psyche, where art is found to be the core of our existence. A space that invites you into a deeper intimacy with the creation of your life. This is not a podcast, but a journey. A weaving of poetry, story, metaphor, and sound to awaken the artist within. I'm your guide, Kaylee Korfike, and it's my prayer that this space feels both wildly abstract and deeply practical, and everything in between. I'm not here to explain, but to express, to show rather than tell. This is a living audio diary, and a space created not only to help you birth your creations into form, but to turn yourself and your life into an offering itself. I hope that you find threads within my journey to pull on and weave within your own. Welcome to the artist's mind, an immersive experience into the feminine psyche.
All right, welcome back to the artist's
found
mind.
To be the core of our existence.
I'm excited to be
a space that invites
recording
you
today,
into
and I also feel a little bit
the creation of your life.
nervous. I feel a little bit.
This is not
I
a
feel
podcast,
a little bit
but
rusty.
a journey. A weaving of
it
poetry,
has been
story,
a season of a lot of transition
to
in my
awaken
life,
the artist
and
within.
coming into contact with what
guide,
it looks
Kaylee
like to go
Korfike.
through different
And it's
transitions
my prayer
of
that
like
this space
changing
feels both
homes and
wildly
changing
abstract
jobs and
deeply
changing
practical,
identity at
and
the same
everything in
time
between.
as trying to fuel
I'm not
a
here to
creative
explain,
project.
but to express,
And
to show,
really learning a
rather
lot
than tell.
about what doesn't work.
This is
in
a
that.
living
And,
audio diary.
You know, it's interesting. I think a lot of times I want to wait
your
until
creations into form,
the other side
but to turn
of
yourself and your life into an offering
trial and
itself.
error process to be able to speak
I
to
hope
something.
that you find threads within my journey.
And
to pull
today,
on
for
and
whatever
weave
reason,
within
I'm
your
actually
own.
feeling like sharing from within that zone. This is a podcast. This is an episode that I've been wanting to record for a while on creative blocks. And I have all these notes and I have all these things that I've gathered about what creative blocks really are and how to work through them. And what I've been finding in my life lately is that I have tried so hard to avoid saying the words, I don't know. I have tried so hard to be the person who looks like I have it all figured out, is seemingly perfect before they come and share something, and realizing that I think I actually have more of a gift in the unknown and in positioning myself in a place of being like, I actually don't know the answer, and I'm going to work through that in real time and share what I'm gaining from that experience with others, because perhaps they have gone through something similar, or maybe they're also going through some sort of creative block in a similar way. So, just tuning in for a minute to see where I want to begin this journey, because I had a plan, had a structure, and I'm also feeling pretty spontaneous today with the flow. So I invite you to just, wherever you are today, unless you're driving or something, then please don't do this. But if you're not, if you're sitting, laying down somewhere and you have the space, just go ahead and close down your eyes for a minute. So I mentioned in the intro to this podcast, and I did in the first episode as well, that this is more than just a podcast to throw on in the background. This space is one where I really want there to be intention and depth and not a lot of distractions going on. So I want to start this by just inviting you to tune in with me, to see where your breath is in your body right now. Is it shallow? Can you invite it deeper? Can you breathe it all the way down to your toes? And what if that wasn't just something that you were doing because I just told you to do it, but what if you were breathing down into your body as a love note to your cells? What would that feel like? And with this next breath, can you see just how soft your body can become, how much you can let go of with one breath. Whatever it was that came before this, seeing if on your next exhale you can imagine that is just shedding from your field, being relinquished just easily, effortlessly. And I wonder how much of yourself, how much of your awareness can you bring into this moment right now? I'm starting to feel the doorway of this episode opening up. I'm going to say a phrase to you. And as I do, without thinking about it, I want you to just put your hands intuitively on the place of your body that calls out to you first. Don't worry about thinking about it. Don't try and figure it out. There's no right or wrong. This is just intuition. Don't question it. Just see where your hands go. If my creative energy was being blocked right now, it would be happening here. Notice where your hands land and just put both of them on that part of your body. And for this first moment, before I dive into sharing and speaking and talking about this energy of creative blocks, I want to give you a moment or two to just be with what that is in your experience. Because there are so many different ways that we block ourselves from our creative energy. That creative energy is just life force, a movement between the earth and the cosmos through our body. And so as this next song plays, I want you to just explore. See what comes up when you contemplate that part of your body. Is it exploring a sensation? Maybe it's just breathing really deeply into that. Or maybe it's going on a little bit of a journey of what that space of your body symbolizes to you and how that plays into the way that that energy has been stuck or stagnating in your system. So just let yourself feel or even think about whatever comes up when you tune into your creative life force and how it is either moving freely or stagnating within your system in the current phase of life that you're in. And if we are here in this body to be creative, if that is like the genuine essence of what we are here to be and to do in the world, is to create in all kinds of different ways, depending on who we are and how we're designed. But we all have this creative capacity inside of us, this energy that is moving us to express our essence in a certain way in the world, in a creative way. Then that creative energy is our power, right? It is the fuel that is moving us. So the way that it's coming through to me is that if there is a place that we feel blocked or stagnant in our creativity, well, our creativity is our sense of power. And so where is it in your life that you're giving away your power? And again, I'm just going to give you a minute or two here. You can sit with that internally. You can write it down if you want to, but where is it in your life that you are giving away your power? And how radically honest can you be with yourself about that? So as we journey on here, feel free to open your eyes if it's more comfortable for you or if you listen better that way. But for those of us who can focus a little bit more internally, feel free and invited to keep your eyes closed and maybe don't distract yourself with something else, but just receive, listen, journey with me. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a visualization journey for a second. Imagine that you could rise up and out of your body as your spirit or consciousness, and you rise further and further up, above your house, above your neighborhood, above your town. You keep going up and up and up until you're finally out there in space looking at the earth. And I want you to imagine that you're not only looking at this from afar as like this sphere in space, but you're also being able to see simultaneously everything on a closer level too. So you're not just seeing the blue and the green and the whites, you're seeing all of the intricacies of nature itself and what is making up the earth itself. So the animals, the plants, the environments, the people. And then we're going to add one more factor here. I want you to imagine that you could watch a time lapse of the earth from the beginning of time until now, seeing it from afar and seeing it close up at the same time. So let that time lapse happen in your mind or in your visual field, and just notice what you see. As you watch the cycle of life move from the time of I don't know, the dinosaurs or the very first species on the planet, to cavemen, to, fuck, I don't know history well enough to do this, but you get the gist. Going through it in your mind, watching this time lapse, what is it that you notice happening? Over time, regardless of who is listening to this or what you're seeing, I would be willing to bet money that you are all experiencing some form of evolution, right? That if you're watching the animals, that they are going through cycles of growth and life and death, and that they're evolving into something new. They're becoming something new. They're transforming from what was into a very new version over time, whether that was animals or whether that is humans or whether that is a form of society or a structure or a system. Everything is growing. Everything is evolving. And everything is in movement. So when we take that principle of that everything is in movement and everything is evolving, and we apply it to ourselves on a personal level, we can see that creation, the energy of creation, that life force energy that's moving through us, it wants to create and grow and evolve. And it has a force that is naturally doing that within us. And when we come into these moments where we feel creatively blocked, what do you think the reason for that is? I'm asking you first because it might be different than the way that I would answer that. When you look at nature, is nature ever blocked? Does nature have creative blocks in its process, or does it just adapt? I don't know, when I look out at nature, whether it's something simple like watching a flower bloom, or something on a grander scale like looking at an entire forest or ecosystem, I don't see any blocks. I don't see anything being stopped. Even in a forest, if one tree grows in the direction of another tree, the other tree just adapts and grows around it. It doesn't just stop growing completely. There's still a movement. There's never a true stagnation. So I've been thinking about this a lot when it comes to the experience of being an artist and having creative blocks. Or just anybody, right? All of us have this creation energy that is trying to evolve and flow through us. That's trying to take us to our next level. That's trying to help us grow. And what I've found in myself is that even though there is no such thing truly as a block, because there is something that is always moving, the thing that makes it seem blocked for us is when we are in a mode of recreating something from the past, when we're stuck in a loop, when we're stuck in a pattern or a habit that is resisting that flow of evolution, that naturalness of our creativity that wants to flow freely, but something in our mind is stopping it or seeming to stop it. And that's when we create a sense of stagnation. So the question is, what do we do with that, right? How do we bring ourselves back into evolution, into flow? How do we open that doorway again? Because we all know what that feels like to be not feeling creative. It sucks. Even if you're not an artist at all and you don't consider yourself to be one, the force of creation is alive in every single person. To somebody, that might look like developing a business versus somebody else that might look like, working on a painting. It doesn't matter. Regardless, we're all here to be creative. So when we start to feel heavy and dull and stuck, and we're kind of caught in that feeling of life just seeming shallow or not having a lot of depth to it or roots to it or intentionality to it, most of the time, if not all of the time, that is because there is a place we are blocking ourselves by a story that we're telling ourselves, by a place that we're giving away our power, and a place that we are afraid of going. Usually there is something in us that is avoiding an unknown space, or a space that we might not think of as being safe enough yet because it's unexplored territory. And in the very first episode that I posted, this is what I meant by the artist's journey really is the hero's journey, or the spiritual journey, or the life journey, because it's no different what's happening behind the scenes when we experience a block towards a certain artistic project, and what is happening in life when we are stagnating in our own evolution of where our spirit is trying to take us, right? Where we are trying to evolve. And though we probably all are very aware of what it feels like to be creatively blocked, what it feels like to be stuck on autopilot, or just feeling that sense of swimming in the shallow end of our life and craving more depth, we don't always know what our personal equation, or I would call it like a soulscription, is for moving beyond that block. A better way of putting that might even be of transforming the block, because it's not about getting around it. It's about going through it. The block is the way forward. It's not the avoidance. The avoidance is what actually creates the stagnation. The trying to get around it is what creates the stagnation. So I'm curious, as you're listening to this, if you know your personal way of transforming that energy. Like, what is your relationship with creative blocks? What do you do when you feel blocked? Do you just wait for the inspiration to come again? Do you work on something different until it does? Or do you have a way of actually engaging the energy of the block itself? And what I mean by that is that block you could also think of as shadow work. There's something in the subconscious, some story, some belief, some idea that you have about yourself and your life that is creating that stuck energy. And the way that we can engage with that is what dictates how fast we can move through and onto the next level. There's a great analogy that I like to use with creative potential. If you think about I might have even said this in the first episode, I can't remember, but if you think of a spout of water that hasn't been turned on for a really long time, and all of a sudden you turn it on, and it's just gushing like brown, dirty water. But then eventually, if you let it flow, it turns clear. I think of creative potential in this way. That the reason, if you think about that clear water as the perfect expression of your artistic ability. For example, if somebody's a painter, this is like the highest level of painting that they could possibly do, the greatest talent, the greatest expression. Or you think about somebody in life, let's use Jesus, that Jesus and the way that he lived is the most clear and pure water. And that every single one of us has a potential inside of us for this level of not just goodness, but of the way that love wants to express through us, the way that creativity wants to express through us, that is not only the most functional, but also the most fun, that we feel the most aligned and attuned, and we feel a depth in life in the way that our spirit is moving through our human vessel. The thing that we're all striving to want to experience, whether we know it or not, is this kind of purity of self. The art of being ourself is that clear water in this metaphor. And yet, the reason that so many people do not get there is because they are unwilling to engage or experience the shadow or the darkness or the dark, murky water that comes before that pure, clear stream. So life is always asking you to evolve and grow, to try and get you towards that purity of self. And art, or whatever form of creativity that we engage with, is a vehicle to be able to get us to that state. In other words, whatever project that you're working on, whatever creative endeavor that you've set out on, whether it is a business or whether it is a painting or whether it is a dance, whatever the vessel is of that creation, that project, that activity, it is going to bring you to places in yourself that are unknown, that are new, that are going to expand and stretch you into evolution so that you can become something better, so that you can become something greater, so that you can hold more love in your body, so that you can become that force of life. So when we get blocked in a project, I'm going to use myself as an example here to make it more personal so that I can get more detailed. One of the projects that I am the most engaged with in my life right now is writing a novel. And that is a long project for me. Not only is it long, but it is something that I have never done before. Always wanted to do, but never done. And so my experience of that new territory has been very start, stop, hitting blocks, hitting places that I don't want to go. And what I have found from that process of newness is that there is a flow that project is trying to take me on of evolution of self, right? That project comes with a blueprint. I said this in my very first episode. If you haven't heard it, every single creative project that comes to us, it has a spirit to it, has a blueprint to it. It knows everything about our lives, who we are, what we need to become, packaged up inside of that project. And how willing we are to come to meet and engage with the places that it is asking us to become something new or to move past a block or a habit or a pattern in ourselves dictates how quickly and fluidly we can bring that piece of art to life. For me, the book that I'm writing is fantasy and fiction, and yet it has a lot of realism to it. It has a lot of my own life story embedded within it. There are a lot of characters that connect to people that I know. There are a lot of dynamics that I'm writing that are based on things in my own life. And when I got that vision of this book, I knew, I intuitively knew the spirit of this project came to me and like spoke to me, not so literally, but like as a download. When I opened up to this, I really communed with the spirit of the project, which I think is so important before we dive into opening a project, is to sit with the whole being. What is it asking of us? What is it going to ask us to become and transform? And what parts of us are going to have to die to allow this project to come forth? And that's a really important piece that I think a lot of us miss, is that oftentimes the art projects, the creative endeavors that come through as these grand visions or smaller visions, they're going to ask us to leave certain things behind because certain other elements are going to be born in us as we open into them, as we explore them. So as I received that vision of my book, and it's actually more than just a book, it's a very big vision, and it terrified me. I actually put it on hold for almost a year and didn't even look at it until I started to become very blocked and heavy and like just weighed down by life, and I didn't know why. And then I had this string of events happen of a really powerful training session that I had with one of my friends, and then another conversation with another friend where she said, what would happen if you went home and you tried to meditate on the part of your body that didn't want your attention to stay in it? And I went home and I realized that it was my throat. It was like I would try to meditate and sit in my awareness of my throat, and immediately I would eject, right? I would go into thought. I could not keep my attention there, and I asked why, and immediately I felt this spirit of this book come to me and be like, you've been ignoring me. Like, how can this huge vision come to you and you have this huge epiphany that it's going to be this really big deal for you to bring this through, and then you just push it aside for months and months? Of course you're going to feel heavy, because my belief, and take this or leave it, it is just my personal belief, just my own intuition. I have this internal sense that the big projects in our life, the big creative ideas that come through for us that are like, I'm not talking about, just like a watercolor painting that you do on a Sunday for yourself. I'm talking about like the vision for this business that comes through and every single cell of your body lights up with passion and says yes to it. That. Or the creative concept that comes to you of a group that you're supposed to create that ties together this artistic side of you and this more practical side and brings people into more of their playfulness and out of the serious nature that people are stuck in. I don't know, whatever it is, those big visions that we have in our life. And you know the one I'm talking about, because I'm sure every one of us has experienced that at some point, the dreams of our soul. I believe that before we come into this life, our soul actually chooses those and knows that these little spirits, these little blueprints, these little mini universes that dress up as artistic projects and dreams of ours are carefully chosen, and that they encode a certain blueprint to them, that they have a certain set of lessons, ideals, places that we are going to have to challenge ourselves to become something new, that they have places of obstacle that we have to come to meet and transform. They have a set of instructions that it's not written, but it's felt by us. And this is why I believe it is really important and helpful when we receive a vision or a dream to have a period of time, almost like a pregnancy, where we're not necessarily sharing it with the world yet, but we're communing with the essence inside of us before it's born, where we're getting to know, like, what is the theme of this thing? What is it going to ask me to do and be and become and die to? And anyway, when I got this vision of this book, I knew that it was going to have a very deeply, I just got so many chills, a very deeply healing aspect of writing from a very personal place, even though it's fiction. And as I am writing each character, there is something about seeing through a new lens or a new perspective on not only myself, but on the other people in my life that is, I don't really know how to explain it to another person, but it's so soulful. It is so healing. And there has been so many moments that I have found myself avoiding this project or feeling blocked in this project. And then the second that I find my way back to it, there is so much movement and change that comes from it, because it isn't just this little thing. It's a big anchor point for me. I think that that's what these projects and dreams are. These bigger visions that we receive, they are anchor points for us. And side note, I will say, on a human design lens, I actually think that there is a really special connection as projectors that we have to these anchors that is vital for us to not ignore when they come as invitations. I'll just drop that as a little breadcrumb, because we don't necessarily have our own energy source as projectors. And so when we avoid big visions that are invitations in our life, we avoid a huge part of our own life force. And so it's even more important for us. Actually, I shouldn't say it's more important. It's not more important. We will experience the detriment of avoidance more than a generator would. But that's as much as I'm going to go down that tangent. So circling back, I want to share a little bit of, for me, what has helped me to move through the experience of creative blocks and ways that other people can do that. And what I want to say first is that I don't know the soulscription for you. I'm going to share what works for me, and I'm still in the discovery process of this. But what I'm hoping is that from hearing my experience, you can take something from that, and like I say in the intro, pull on it and weave within your own journey. What I hope is that you will play with this and make it your own. It's boring to just take something that somebody else said and just mimic it forever. Take something, be inspired by it, trial and error it, and then let it become something new for you. So back to that metaphor of the muddy water turning into the clear water. If you think about it like this, that most people are getting blocked because they're afraid of the muddy water. The way to move more fluidly in life and in art is to become friends with the muddy water, to befriend that imperfection, to befriend the messiness, and engage with it. So what does that look like? Most people are terrified of making mistakes and fucking up and getting it wrong in life and in art. Most people's creative potential and highest calling in art and in life, that pure state of water, is just beyond the mess. And not one mess, but learning to befriend the mess, not to the point where it's like, oh, let me just get through this so I can get to the perfection, but befriending the unknown, the place where things are shadowy and murky and messy and it's not pretty yet and it's not the final picture, and learning to love that process. If you can fall in love and find your way of engaging with making messy art, with letting your subconscious speak, because that goes hand in hand with the messiness. When you can befriend that process and you can find your soulscription of what it is for you that is the excitement in that, that is where you will reach your potential as an artist and as a human. And I am just in that process alongside you. That is not something that I'm speaking about from the place of being like, here I am on the other side and I've perfected that. Fuck no. I will say that I have a pretty good relationship with making messes with art and trial and erroring, but I have not moved through that completely. I'm not in the point where everything is just fluid and perfect, and I don't even know if that's the point. I think that if we're still attached to that being the point, we haven't truly befriended the shadow. I think that, and I don't know that this is the case, but I have a hypothesis that the person that has truly mastered shadow work and art is the one that doesn't mind at all if they're playing in the mess or they're playing in the perfection, that they can enjoy every part of that, and that freedom of acceptance and befriending that is actually what opens the door to the most fluidity. That's my hypothesis. My hypothesis is that the people who have reached probably the greatest flow states, maybe this isn't the case, maybe there's anomalies out there of people who this isn't the case for, but I would imagine that the people that we see in the world who have mastered flow state and have these like absolutely incredible pieces all the time probably have a process and have had a journey of making messes with their art and allowing themselves to engage with that without judging it or without avoiding it. So we could talk about this for hours and how it relates to the human journey, but we're going to talk specifically about art. So for me, I'm going to share what's worked really well for me in terms of that muddy water moment. When I feel blocked in my creativity, and sometimes that might mean avoiding my creative process for a while. That's usually how it shows up for me, and I start to feel dull. I start to reach for things that I don't really want. TV, food, stimulation. I start to overly consume. I think that's a really great indicator and red flag for us of when we're not in tune with evolution and with our creative life force. When that happens for me and I become aware of it, I know that I just need to start. For me, that is almost always the answer, to just start, to create a container. I'm going to use today as an example. Since moving about a month, 2 months ago, and getting a new job, which happened very close together, there has been a lot of change in my life. And I'm going through a season of my identity just feeling like it's just been crumbling, and this space of almost internally feeling like a blank canvas. Like I don't quite know who it is that I'm supposed to be in the world or who I am. And I was looking at my blank walls of my home being like, wow, everything is just this blank canvas, like internally, externally. And there's a kind of a discomfort in that, in a way, where I noticed that I was starting to reach for patterns and habits that weren't necessarily healthy to me, just to create a sense of familiarity in the unknown. And it wasn't that I was completely out of touch with my book or with my creative projects, but I do this thing where I'll like dabble, I'll like touch into it for like 10 minutes and then tell myself a story of like, oh yeah, I worked on my book, instead of working on my book, So for me, when I start to notice that I am avoiding a project like my podcast, I was like, okay, yeah, I've been in this transition. I was telling myself kind of this, I don't know if I would say it was an excuse. Yeah, it's probably an excuse. Yeah. I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't feel inspired. That's usually my personal excuse, is I don't feel inspired. And I'm waiting for the inspiration to come. And I would bet that this is the case for a lot of people, is that we're waiting on life to inspire us instead of bringing the inspiration to life. And I get it. There are phases in our life where inspiration just does not feel attainable or available to us. But what I find is that more often than that, when we are not inspired, we are being asked to engage in a way that might feel resistant. And there's kind of two forms of resistance in life. There's resistance that's telling us, don't go here, this isn't correct, you're pushing. And then there's resistance that is asking us to meet it because it's an unknown space. And so there's a discomfort in expanding there. And I don't think that we really get to know those types of resistances until we engage and experience it ourselves, because you'll feel it. If there's a time in your life where like inspiration is literally unavailable, you will know it because you will try to engage with it or try to create some inspiration. And it's like there is just nothing that's accessing that. And sometimes that's okay. And sometimes that phase of life is actually what gives birth to the greatest inspiration on the other side. And I will say again, more often than not, we as humans really like to feel resistance or to feel a lack of inspiration and just kind of give up and be like, oh, whatever, I'll just go consume over here. I'll just go explore this other avenue that doesn't even really feed me true vitality until the inspiration comes again. And most people, sadly, live in this zone for their whole lives, where they're just waiting for inspiration to hit them, but they're never engaging with the process that it might take to move through that resistance and access inspiration that might actually be right there waiting for them, waiting on them to make the first move. Somebody said something to me probably 5 or 6 years ago, where they said, you're not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you. And that might not always be action, right? For somebody who is constantly creating or constantly on the move, life might actually be waiting for you to be quiet and still and listen and find the inspiration in that solitude, But for others, life might be waiting on you to make the first move, to create a space or a container for yourself to explore the resistance, to explore being messy. So when I find myself in these moments, and today was one of those, I sat down in the sun to meditate, and I felt this familiar sense of excitement around where my podcast could go and what I could create with it. And then I felt the simultaneous wanting to just avoid it, and this resistance of like, no, I'd rather just like turn on the TV or whatever, do something else. And all of a sudden I got curious of like, what would happen if I just created a container for myself today and explored, even if I record the whole thing and it just never goes out? What if that's okay? What if I get to learn something about myself in that process? What if I open up new energy flow in just choosing to engage with that avoidance or that resistance. And so I did. I created a container for myself. For me today, that was simple. It's just like, all right, I'm coming into the living room. I'm setting up my computer. I'm setting up my recording stuff. And I took out I created a personalized oracle deck for myself recently to actually help me in moving through creative blocks, or to use on days where I just don't want to do the same old thing. I want to create more magic in my life. I want to play more. I want to engage with life in a more fun and mysterious and creative way. And so I have this really epic oracle deck that I'm really excited about. And one of the plans that I had was to talk about that deck in my next episode and share with people how they could create their own. Because this has been one method for me of kind of shaking up the energy of life when it starts to stagnate. It takes you in different, different routes of life. It makes me think differently. It makes me combine energies differently. It makes me create when I don't necessarily want to create. It's like I leave the choice of what to do with my energy up to the universe. And I have a lot of things in this deck that challenge me, that are uncomfortable. Right? I have cards. I'm trying to use some as an example. I have one that's liquids for the day, not to eat food for the rest of the day and to notice what comes up. I have one that says go do sprints. I have one that says unplug from all screens for the day, and then I have, other ones that are what would your inner rebel want to do today? Or I even have one in there that's Netflix and chill, because sometimes I actually need that almost environmental cue to just be yo, sit down and just watch a movie. Don't try to do some big grand old thing with your day, I'm actually going to I'm going to pull a couple cards and just read what comes up as a fun little experiment to kind of share some that are in here. Okay, I pulled one that says energy leaks. So this would be one that would bring me into a contemplation of where I am leaking energy in my life. So that might be more like a journal prompt or something to just notice throughout my day of okay, it's drawing my awareness. Maybe there's a place in my creative potential that I'm leaking energy that I could pull and harness that back in a different way. Another one that I have is any dreams lately? Which one comes to mind? Journal on the symbology. Another one is give back to somebody. Another one is clean your house. Another one is create a post about something that you have learned in your trial and error process lately. Get creative. Another one is ask blank for an intuitive message. And then I have another little jar of names of the people closest to me. So I fill in certain other cards with those names. I also have a little jar of locations, so I can pull cards on a place to go to change up the energy or pattern interrupt for a day. I have one that says, where do you need to be more of a martyr? Use your pessimism magic. That one always calls me out on something good. So anyway, these are just an example for me of a way that I can kind of engage with life as a mystery and let something that is not my mind help my energy flow. I feel I use Oracle, or actually I should say I used to use Oracle decks almost every day to help me tune into my inner world. But the one that I've created feels more practical because it's more personalized to me and to the things that I need. And I really feel a sense of trust. When it says for me to, have liquids for a day and don't eat food, it lands on the day that I need that, just the way that when we pull cards from a deck, they tend to resonate, right? There's a driving principle of the universe behind why we pick the cards we pick. There's a resonance usually there. And the same thing goes for the one that I've created. And what I've found is that this is a great way for me to shift creative blocks because I have cards in here that either are connected directly to the project that I'm working on to either think about something or work on it in a new perspective, or there are things that this deck brings me to do or to think about or to engage with that tend to open up the blocks that I am feeling. So I really love this as a way to transform and shake up the energy of life and kind of let life show me and call me forward instead of just trying to get places in my mind, which can be challenging. And besides that, I have a few other parts of my own soulscription that I can share. And they all have to do with the subconscious mind. Even this deck, I could speak to how it connects to the subconscious mind. But what I'll say is, when I'm feeling a block, especially if it's something that I'm creating physically, but it doesn't have to be, I love to find ways that my subconscious can speak to me or just completely kind of vomit, either on a page or verbally. So for today, when I took out my microphone, I was like, I'm just going to do stream of consciousness. I'm just going to start talking and kind of let that water run muddy. I'm going to let it have space. And what that looks like is that usually if I've been blocked or avoiding a project like I had with my podcast for a while, that means that I'm going to have to devote myself to probably spending a little bit of time with just being messy and it not going anywhere. And eventually, through devotion, that becomes more of a flow. But I'll be honest with you guys, this podcast, because I haven't done it in a while, took so much stop, start, deleting little bits because I felt sticky. But I didn't stop. And I think that that is the key for us, is the commitment of creating a container and sticking with it until we get to a place of fluidity. And that doesn't mean the fluidity has to be for somebody else. I knew when I sat down that there's a good chance I could record this whole thing and just throw it away, because I've done that actually the last couple times. And yet, I still move through part of that resistance, part of that block. I still move into more of my own evolution and give myself access to more fluidity when I choose to engage, even if it's just for me. And I think that that part is the most important, and the thing that you would probably get from most artists that are doing really well in the world and producing a lot, that they have probably a practice where they are willing to make stuff that is not for anybody else, when they're willing to be messy just for the sake of art, of getting to know themselves through art, right? Because isn't that, at the end of the day, isn't that what art is? Isn't that what we're doing in this process? We're giving ourselves an access point to ourself. And not just the part of ourself that we are normally conscious of, but to the unconscious parts of ourself. We get to know more of the whole experience of who we are as a human through the more that we engage with every part of the journey, the shadow and the light, the sticky parts and the fluid parts. So oftentimes I like to do that through not just, turning on a mic and podcasting and being messy in that way, but one of the ways that I love to do it is closing my eyes and either stream of consciousness singing or spoken word poetry, and letting myself be really messy. And if I stick with that, what happens is it opens up into a flow that usually ends up being really good. And usually it's for nobody else but myself. But the way that I feel as that energy moves in my body is so delicious. It's so worth it. Anybody who has touched into their own state of flow knows that that is the point. That is the point. To me, that is the point of life. It's not where the flow goes. It's being in touch with being in the flow. Because when we are in flow, we are present in our body with our spirit. Our soul is speaking to us. We're allowing it to move us. And to me, personally, flow state feels like I am worshiping life. Like I am allowing evolution and I am allowing God to do exactly what it wants to do through me. And that's when we don't need to consume so much, because we are fed by our own spirit. We inspire ourselves by engaging that process, by meeting the resistance of like, oh, I don't want to do that. I could do something else. I could just turn on the TV today and it'd be an instant dose of dopamine. I could just veg out on the couch all day. Today was my only day to myself, and it was so easy to want to do that. And I almost did. But then I didn't. And here we are an hour later, and took a lot of stop, start, and it was messy in the beginning, and I didn't really find my flow until the end, but that's okay. I feel so much better for making that choice. I also really like to make messy art with paint or with drawing. I think that doodling is so underrated and such a great form of not only meditation, but of moving energies. But one of the things that I did with a client a few months back that was one of my favorite journeys that I've taken somebody on, I brought her into a meditative state and on this kind of inner child journey. Got her into more of this trance state. And then I moved her into an experience of dancing and like fully embracing the freedom of dance, letting it be messy and wild and unfiltered, and feeling that in the body, and then moving her into messy art from there, and then letting her subconscious speak to her through this messy art. And then I had her sit down at the end of the journey and take the piece of art that she had and do a reading for herself, and basically look at this art and say, what is my subconscious telling me about myself and my life right now? Because every time that we create without structure like that, without a mental plan, when we let our subconscious and our body speak through art in a messy way, our subconscious is telling us a story. And it's really fun to be able to look at that and actually kind of analyze ourselves and see what that hidden code is. And that's a great way to start. If you don't know where to start for your personal soulscription of moving energy, close your eyes and take a pen or take some colors and just let yourself draw, or you could do it with paint, not with a structure or an idea of what you're trying to go, but see if you can feel a sensation in your body that feels blocked or heavy. This could be an emotion, or it could just be trapped energy, or it could be pain. And see if you can feel that sensation in your body as if it is speaking through your pen, and just let your pen move and see how connected you can make it, as if this movement of your pen is the voice of that sensation, not in language, but in movement. You'd be shocked at how much energy you can move or emotion you can process through doing that. And then when you're done, as a fun little practice, look at what you drew and give yourself a reading. Tell yourself what you see. What is your subconscious saying to you? What are the symbols that come through? You know, when you look at the clouds and one person sees a train and another person sees a dragon, everybody sees something different because your subconscious is speaking to you through symbology. Same thing goes for art. Look at what you drew and notice what symbols come through. What story does it have to tell you? You could even do this as like, before you sit down and do this practice, ask a question to your subconscious mind. Ask a question to your universe. What is the thing blocking me the most right now in myself? And then close your eyes, connect inward, and let your hand move and see what comes up. See what it shows you. Engage the mess, engage the unknown, engage the shadow, because that is the doorway through. And it's also really fun. It's like being a kid again. When we get too serious, these practices are so important. When we forget how to play with art, man, that's death to me. When we forget how to play and allow our creativity to be fun and playful and lighthearted, that's when we start to die. That's when we start to stagnate. That's when we start to feel like we're regressing or we're stuck. But the most beautiful thing is that you don't always need some big grand moment or thing to come into your life to shake that energy up. You have the ability to do that so easily. Grab your colors and just doodle outside in the sun. See what happens. All right, I'm going to leave this here because this got pretty long. And I think what I would like to go into next in the next episode is either how to create your own oracle deck and steps around that, or an episode on connecting to the spirit of a creation and kind of being in that state of pregnancy with it before you bring it to life. So I don't know what order, but those are two that I'm wanting to create. I don't necessarily know that they will be the next two, but they're ones that I've been outlining for a little while. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in with me and being a part of my own messy journey today. If you appreciated this podcast and you feel like it might serve somebody else in their creative process, please feel free to share it. This is a very, very new little seedling of a project for me. And so any way that you might feel inspired to engage, whether it's through a review or sharing, it would mean the world to me. All right. Until next time, may your curiosity be greater than your fear.